China owns your favorite celebrities. Did you know that? They own them literally every single penny, it seems. And the latest example of this has been John Cena. Now, I don't watch wrestling. Do you watch wrestling?
No.
I don't believe you. You look like a secret wrestling fan. Don't know. I felt like it was a good insult.
I don't think against wrestling. It's just not for me. Like, someone else wants to watch it, sure.
Is there like a big wrestling constituency in our audience that are about to
I don't
give you
know. I
hell?
mean, it's just my.
Am I going to get hell for this?
No, it's just my opinion on all gay porn. I mean, if you want to watch it, go for it. Like.
Right, in defense of wrestling, why wrestling isn't gay porn? Okay, well, that's throwing me off my stride now. Thank you, Callum. But anyway, right. So yeah, John Cena. You probably know who he is, so I probably don't need to explain. But he's a famous wrestler turned movie star, and he's starring in the latest Fast and Furious movie, which is 9, I think. There have been 9 of these movies of people driving around in cars. Like, people watch this, apparently. This is how out of touch I am with the kids, right? So anyway, he was giving an interview in Taiwan, you know, that famous Chinese province, where he said that Taiwan would be the first country to watch Fast and Furious 9 in an interview with one of their local broadcasters. This didn't go down well, as you might imagine, and it provoked the ire of China. And so the entire country, the massive empire, billion or so people got offended by this, apparently, so we're told. And basically this meant that John Cena had to come out and make his grovelling apology, which he did. In Chinese, he uploaded a video to Chinese social media site Weibo.
Weibo.
Right, Weibo, right. Apologising, right. We won't play the video because obviously it's not in English, but this is what he says. Hello, China. I am John Cena. At the moment, at the set of Fast and Furious 9, I have been doing many, many, many interviews. So in one interview, I made one mistake. Everybody asked me if I could use Chinese Fast and Furious 9 crew, gave me lots of information, many interviews, a lot of information. I made one mistake that I must say now it is very, very, very important. I love and respect China and Chinese people. I'm very, very sorry for my mistake. Apologies. I am sorry. You must understand. I love and respect China and Chinese people. Excuse me. Goodbye. I don't think your tongue was quite in there deep enough, John. A little bit more. Just, you know, you really get to the back of their throat, isn't it? You know, I mean, what?
I got a question, though. Like, you said he did this all in Chinese.
Yeah.
Does he know Chinese, or has he learnt this specially for the apology?
Well, that's a great question that I'm afraid I don't have an answer to. But the point is, I mean, like, talk about grovelling. I can't stand it. It's so grim. I mean, like this is a full-on salam, you know. This is like, oh God, I'll kiss your feet, master. It's like, okay, how important is China to the Fast and Furious? Well, the answer is very, actually. It turns out that, so Fast and Furious 9, I looked up on Wikipedia, it took $200 million to make and took $229 million, so profit, I guess. The top markets for its opening weekend, though, were like Russia, 8 million, South Korea, 9 million, Saudi Arabia, 2 million, United Arab Emirates, 2.6 million, China, 136 million. So you can see why he had to, you know, whoever his paymasters were like, John, you're going to go out there, you're going to memorize this Chinese script, and you're going to say to every single Chinaman, I will kiss your rim. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to imply something.
If it is more than 50% of the audience there.
It is more than 50%, yes. Way more, in fact. It's about 65%. So
he is cucked to China, isn't he?
Exactly. So for his paycheck, he is now going to learn Chinese, go out there, prostrate himself, and kiss every Chinese boot that comes along, right? So you can see why he's so Weasley. Like I said, I don't know anything about wrestling, but apparently John Cena's had...
This reminds me. You know the jokes people used to tell? Be like, well, we better learn Chinese now because we're going to need it in 20 years.
Oh, he has, yeah.
It actually has happened. Like, you've actually got a movie star being like, yeah, I need to learn Chinese or I'm screwed.
Well, I mean, no one in the West is watching this, are they?
No.
Well, I have no idea that these movies even exist.
Kind of an insult to China. They're all watching it, to be honest. But,
yeah,
anyway.
China, up your game, man. What's been good? You know, basically something made in Japan these days, I think it is.
You know what's funny as well? China Uncensored did a video on this. The number of Western movies that are allowed into China is restricted, and it's directed by the Communist Party, obviously. So they pick which movies they want to send through. So there's also fierce competition to even get your movie into the market. So.
And I should have got the movie posters up because I mean what was the latest Star Wars one where it's got the actors and one of them is black and it's fine, it's normal, and then the Chinese one he's tiny, He's been shrunk.
They cut the kissing scene between the interracial
They did.
characters.
Anyway, there was a response by one of his longtime nemeses in the world of wrestling. Like I said, I don't know anything about wrestling, but I've heard of the CM Punk guy before, and he seems to have a pretty cool attitude. Basically, they had a lengthy rivalry during their time together in WWE, and so CM Punk, on his Twitter bio, changed it to say, Taiwan is a country. Chad. Absolute Chad move. But also, you can see who's bought and paid for by the CCP, can't you? You can see who makes their money from Chinese gold and who doesn't. And which one do you find more respectable is the question. But anyway, this is obviously not the first time that a Western celebrity, has had to do this. Let's take a look at, say, LeBron James in 2019, as the Free Hong Kong protests were going on. And everyone was like, yeah, good point. Hong Kong shouldn't be oppressed by the communist Chinese. He came out and said, well, hang on a second. Freedom of speech is kind of good, but at times there are ramifications for the negative that can happen when you're not thinking about others, when you only think about yourself. I hope you're listening to this, John Cena. When you say something like Taiwan is a country, or that the people of Hong Kong deserve free speech, I hope you're listening to LeBron James, your fellow serf in shackles, Chinese shackles.
Communist dimmies over here.
Communist dimmies. Wearing your golden chains. But at times there are ramifications. So many people could have been harmed, not only financially, but physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's right. Physical harm from the free speech of the Hong Kongers.
Those poor police officers. Like when they're clubbing down the people, I've got to listen to this.
Well, that's a good point. But remember, LeBron James is paid to put a ball through a hoop, not to think. So, don't take what he's saying too seriously. But anyway...
The chap who went to North Korea as well.
No, that's Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, yeah.
So just be careful what we tweet and what we say and what we do. Even though, yes, we do have freedom of speech, he meant to say it can have a lot of negativity that comes with it, but he kind of messed that up. But I mean, like I said, he's not paid to tweet, he's paid to dunk. Good thing he's like 10 feet tall. And no, I wouldn't say that to his face because he'd probably kick my ass. He's massive. But anyway, obviously, a lot of these sort of Hong Kong protesters objected to this double standard. They were like, well, look, black you NBA players in the West are perfectly happy to be political, saying things like Black Lives Matter, but Hong Kong lives also matter. So what now? And he was just like, shh, they don't. Anyway, so yeah, this was, of course, definitely about money. It's all about money, and the good thing that he even mentions money in it, because otherwise it would have been a bit more shameful than it already was. Speaking of shameful, LeBron Shames was trending on Twitter because of him doing this. Oof, that's all I'm saying. But I guess that he got lots of money. He got 2 or 3 stacks from the Chinese, so that's fine. No problem at all. Nothing to be concerned about. China's buying off all of our celebrities, or anyone of any cultural influence. China owns them, and they will literally grovel. So, no, hold your free speech. Hold your free speech. There are some things that are offensive, like Hong Kong isn't a part of China, or that Taiwan isn't a part of China. Don't mention the Uyghurs either. Shh.
I mean, that's the worst part of this is when they're in America being like hashtag BLM. Oh, we're being oppressed.
Take the
US,
knee.
The US is genociding black people, but Xinjiang. How long until Colin Kaepernick does this as well? I mean, with all his activism.
It's surely only a matter of time. But
he's in his Chinese lessons right now.
But this is the point, though. It's the obvious double standard, but it's the obvious obsequiousness to what is, frankly, a genocidal fascist regime. And the Chinese government and the members of the party that we see from the sort of Western-facing world, they're not exactly good people. They seem to be total scum. But anyway, let's move on. So recently they censored the Friends reunion. Ah, yes, that bastion of subversion. Western subversion. Censor Friends. We can't have a boy band called BTS, Lady Gaga, or Justin Bieber. Okay, this is getting kind of base now. God damn it. But apparently they've all caused controversy in China.
How?
Presumably because they're gay?
Well, that's it.
Or they're gay activists?
I thought they'd done something more then. I thought they'd been like, yeah, communism's bad, but...
Yeah, because, apparently any mentions of LGBTQ in the Friends reunion were also censored.
Right.
So I assume that these people have spoken on Twitter positively about leftist activism, and the leftists in China were like, oh, no, you don't. But this was really popular in China, actually. So the hashtag friends on Weibo had like more than 1.2 billion views. So it's really popular in China for some reason, which is amazing because it's deeply unpopular here because of the millennials. And it's very problematic. But anyway, the correct response, of course, is to do what South Park did. In 2019, South Park got scrubbed from China, which makes you wonder how it was legal in China in the first place.
Yeah.
Really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It's never been too kind to China anyway. But...
It's never been too kind to anything. That was always the gold of it. But yeah, Randy Marsh was, of course, put into a forced labour camp.
Do you remember the 2008 episode they did on the Olympics, in which they had all the Chinese essentially as like robots, and then Cartman being really racist and thinking that they were going to take over the world by murdering everyone?
Oh yeah, that wouldn't happen. That wasn't weirdly pathetic.
Well, no, he thought that literally anyone who looked Chinese was an agent of the communists.
Moving on.
John coughs in the corner.
John's sweaty, so God. So yeah, anyway, so South Park got scrubbed from Chinese media and internet everywhere, and so the chaps from South Park, Matt Stone, Trey Parker, put out an apology. Like the NBA, the National Basketball Association, we welcome the Chinese censors into our homes and into our hearts. We too love money more than freedom and democracy. Z doesn't look like Winnie the Pooh at all. Long live the great Communist Party of China. May this autumn's sorghum harvest be bountiful. We good now, China. It's the way to do it. But the worst part about all of this, right, and this is the bit I hate the most, is the... Okay, when I say it here, there's a part of me that's got a kind of grudging respect for it, but it's the unbelievable smugness of the Chinese authorities when it comes to this. So, the Global Times, a tabloid paper that's obviously, I mean, for some reason Newsweek tell us that it's under the auspices of the Communist Party of China. It's like, duh, obviously. But, a Chinese newspaper, which means a mouthpiece of the CCP, praised Cena for the timely apology in an editorial on Wednesday that reveals his willingness to uphold the values of China.
What, being a serf? How does that demonstrate any value other than just being a pathetic serf?
I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not the one who is promoting Chinese values, which, again, I don't even think are Chinese values. What they're talking about is just the values of the Communist Party, and that means German values. It always comes back to it, doesn't it? Always. Anyway... But he sets a good example for all Westerners to follow. That's right. Follow John Cena's good example, says Global Times, mouthpieces of the Chinese Communist Party. Just get down on your knees. Just get down and start kissing this. Oh, lick those boots. Go on, just get all the dirt out of them. You know you want to. Western celebrities.
That's a song as well in the Communist Chinese Party.
Is it?
Follow Lei Fang's good example. Loyal to the party. Then it just sings about him being a cuck.
I can't stand it. His attitude is, quote, something other Westerners, especially Hollywood stars, should learn from and follow. I agree. I think all of the Western stars should do it. All of them should come out and just absolutely bend over for the Communist Party of China. They will treat you with dignity and respect, I'm sure. But the point is, if all of our celebrities do this, it will at least be a good example to the rest of us. Don't be like them. Don't be on the payroll of China. Cena showed that he realizes the importance of respecting the One China principle, which is a red line for Chinese people. You mean it's the CCP. Everything, when you say any of this, is CCP. And has also demonstrated that he knows how important the Taiwan question is to the people of China by quickly apologizing for his mistake. Yes, and he would have been absolutely ruined financially had he not. But anyway... Lots of people, of course, were not happy with this in China. Many people were replying. I mean, like the top comment on this had like 8,900 likes. Please say in Chinese, Taiwan is a part of China, otherwise we won't accept your apology. Because that's the interesting bit about his apology is he didn't actually say anything about Taiwan. John, it's not good enough. I don't think it's good enough. If you're going to apologise, if you're going to get on your knees and absolutely suck the Chinese off, do it properly, for the love of God. John, if you're going to humiliate yourself in public, make it truly debasing. Don't, skirt around the edges and give them room to come and nip at your heels some more. Honestly, John, you're embarrassing us all by not bowing down enough. Sorry, I know I'm going on, but I really hate this. Anyway.
But I have to wonder, when they say it was, unpopular in China, how many people... Because it very much reminds me of, you've offended 1 billion Muslims, when they say you offended 1 billion Chinese. And it's like, yeah, how many, though? How many people are actually annoyed?
Well, obviously, it's exactly the same principle of universalization that's being applied. So it's like, look, I speak for the Chinese people.
Yeah.
How do you know? Because I'm the only one who allows them to speak.
I'm the only one on Weibo who's not been banned.
I am the censor, you know? So I speak for the Chinese people because I'm the Chinese Communist Party. I determine what the Chinese people want to say because I'm in charge of it. But yeah, anyway, so this is horrific, frankly. But then you get into like, okay, so what kind of people are you apologizing to? You know, you're apologizing to people who are currently undergoing, committing what has been described by Pompeo as he was leaving office as a genocide. And this has been a widely accepted thing now, but we'll get to that in a second.
What is it, the sixth?
Well, the sixth genocide?
Something like that.
Oh,
since the party came to power. So
I mean, I dread to think how many people the party of Mao have killed. But anyway, let's first talk about what the Chinese did to Australia, right? So the Chinese have been, there have been some, like a back and forth trade embargoes with Australia. This has been hurting China as well. So they've been going without raw materials that they wanted from Australia because the Australians are like, well, we're not John Cena and we're not just going to bend over. And so the Chinese have responded with an absolutely disgusting propaganda war. But I mean, nothing really is below what I would expect from the Chinese government. They posted a fake image of an Australian soldier killing an Afghan child. Wasn't real. Didn't happen. Doesn't matter. And the Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, said, well, Beijing should be ashamed. And Beijing were like, ha, 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 ha. We don't know what that means. And I'm not even joking, actually. They were literally like, we're not ashamed of anything. We don't have morals.
they're not.
And I mean it. Yeah, I mean it. They are not ashamed of anything. And so appealing to their sense of shame must have been very amusing in CCP board meetings. But yeah, no, this wasn't true. Doesn't matter. And then we have the latest one, which, I mean, like I said, there's a part of me that kind of admires the brass balls. But then when you realize that, hang on, we're talking about the worst people on earth, then you really have to stop and say, okay, they can't be allowed to continue like this, right? So Britain, Canada, and the European Union recently imposed sanctions against Chinese officials in March of what the United States calls a genocide perpetrated against the Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang. We've seen lots of evidence of this. There have been lots of escapees saying, well, this is what they're doing. They're forcibly, they're making us, do all this forcible work. There have been 1 million people taken off to the camps. They're forcing us to, cohabit with Chinese men and things like this. All of these, weird and terrible things that are looking like a genocide.
I mean, we have video footage of the trains and the camps.
We do. And I'm sure that, and that's without us having defeated China in a war. Normally all this stuff comes out after the power has been defeated. But China, of course, retaliated by imposing sanctions on several British MPs and MEPs who belong to the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. Of course, the forced sterilizations, labour camps, blah, blah, blah. We won't go into it. But the Chinese response to this is there is no forced labour in China. There are no such things as concentration camps in Xinjiang. We have literally seen the satellite images of these labour camps. We have evidence from witnesses and escapees. What more do we need?
Also, you won't let us go there and film.
Yes, and you won't let anyone go there, and you deny they exist.
The only time you do, it's on a guided tour.
Yeah. So I mean, what more do we need? But anyway, as they say, there's no war in Ba Sing Se. There's no concentration camps in Xinjiang, and there's no such thing as genocide. Our European friends know what is genocide. Referring, of course, to Nazi Germany.
It's almost like they're bigging up the Germans.
Well, no, it's so weird. It's like, you being like, okay, well, look, you're committing a genocide. It's like, well, you know all about genocide, wouldn't you, Germany? I mean, yeah, they would. I mean, they recently apologised for the genocide of the Herero, which was the first genocide of the 20th century, but not the first genocide committed by the Germans in the 20th century. They've recently apologised for that. But the thing is, China, what you're failing to understand there is that when the Germans say, hey, you're committing a genocide, they're the ones with the experience. And so going, well, you would know. Yes, they would. They would exactly know what a genocide looks like. And so when they say you're committing a genocide, well, there's a good chance they're right. Just saying.
But also China's saying that you're not wrong with that response. They're not denying it.
No. They're saying, oh, you Germans have got morals now, do you? That was a mistake, wasn't it? It means you have to take responsibility for the genocide you commit. Well, unlike the Chinese Communist Party, we don't take responsibility for any of it. It's not even happening. Deal with it. unbelievably evil. Unbelievably evil.
I mean, you were saying it before we started, but it really is like the guys who know they're the villain in the story.
Yeah.
I just fully embrace it.
Yes.
Just absolutely no care.
But this is the thing, right? Because after we read all these books about China, it's very clear that there are the historical moral standards that the Chinese had have been erased by the communists. You know, anything that could be considered to be moral has been erased, and so you've got this purely materialist philosophy that has stamped out traditional moral standards. And so now it's all about power. Everything is about advantage. Everything is about advantage is the only way I can describe it. And so for a bunch of people to sit there and go, well, it's wrong for you to do that. Not from their perspective. They don't have morals like we have. I mean, we were watching the interview, the speech by Di Dongsheng. Like, it's just, we are dealing with amoral people who don't consider morality to be an operant factor in the world. They're people for whom morality is something laughable. You know, they point to other people and laugh at them. Oh, well, Germany, are you talking to us about genocides? Well, I guess they're not anymore. What's the point? I hate it. But I mean, you know, thank God our celebrities are doing their part to take as much money from this genocidal regime as they can. If you enjoyed this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full broadcast live every weekday at 1 p.m. UK time on lotuseaters.com.